What's up YouTube, and welcome to another video. So today we're going to be talking about difficult subjects, or rather seemingly difficult subjects. This is something that I developed through my own self-study journey that has made my learning more efficient and faster, as opposed to just brute forcing difficult to understand concepts. Now, while this won't be one step that fixes everything, it's going to be a collection of steps and tips that will allow you to approach these difficult subjects and hopefully allow the information to stick and help you grasp the material. So before I talk about how to actually study this difficult material, I want to talk about your mindset first and how you approach difficult subjects. Because how you approach this difficult subject before you even begin studying is going to make the biggest outcome. When I was in high school, I convinced myself I was bad at math. So before the year even began, I was going into that class knowing I wasn't going to get an A. I already had a mindset that I wasn't going to do well and that I wasn't going to understand the material. What I should have done looking back is had the mindset that this might be challenging, but it's not impossible and I can do it. It's just going to take more effort than the virtually zero effort I was putting in at the time. So this really is a glass half full, glass half empty scenario. If we take two students who are both looking at the same subject with the same baseline knowledge, one can have a mindset that this is going to be impossible for them to learn and that they're just not smart enough, while the other can have the mindset that this is going to be a challenge, but it's going to be exciting and I'm going to learn something new. I just have to put in the work. Those two students that had the same base knowledge will have two drastically different outcomes into how their studying will be and their eventual scores at the end of the class. My mindset when approaching math now, as opposed to high school, is one with excitement. I'm eager to learn. I spend most of my day, whatever free time I have, doing math and trying to understand it because I see it as a challenge and I like the challenge and trying to overcome it so that I can be considered good at math, or at least in my own head. So you don't necessarily have to be excited and eager to learn the material, but if you have the mindset that you're willing to put in the work to understand and grasp this difficult subject, it's going to be much more rewarding at the end of the road. So when you're entering a difficult class or a difficult subject that you're studying on your own, it's going to put you outside of your comfort zone. And that's a good thing. You want to be outside of your comfort zone because it's going to force you to grow. So just have the mindset that you're willing to put in the work and it's going to be rewarding at the end of the road, and it'll make all the difference in how you actually study. So the second thing I want to talk about are the materials that you use when studying. So for example, I'm mainly using a textbook when studying calculus. And while for the most part it does a great job at explaining the chapters, not every chapter is explained in a way that I understand it. And that can be the biggest thing when you think that a subject is harder than it really is. It's just the way it's conveyed to you is in a way that you don't understand. And that's fine. Textbooks can oftentimes be a bit convoluted and a bit complicated, a little bit more than is necessary. So reach out to YouTube. If you're in a formal class, go to your teacher or teacher's assistant to help explain it in different ways so that you can understand it. I'm usually either going to MIT's OpenCourseWare, Khan Academy, or different YouTube channels to help find different explanations. And I'll often watch 5 videos on the same subject so I can hear from different people's point of views to get the best all-around understanding of the material. So don't think you can't understand a difficult subject because you're not smart enough, because that's not true. It just might not be told to you in a way that's easily understood. So the third thing I want to talk about is an actual method to use when studying. So first, what I do with a new chapter is I skim the whole chapter. I read each subheading, each subsection, and the key terms within that chapter. This allows me to just get a base understanding of what is going on and what I'm going to be learning about and what the end goal is. I'll also skim some of the example problems, but not spending too much time reading them. I just kind of want to get an idea of what is going on so I know when I go back what to expect. So after we skim the entire chapter, or you can break it up smaller if you want to, what I do now is I just read without taking notes. I'm just going to read through to further get that context with what it is I'm learning. Now we're doing this to build the information gradually instead of just throwing it all on ourselves at one time. Remember, we don't want to brute force a difficult subject. We want to break it up and gradually build that foundation. So I'm slowly going to read through the chapter, not take any notes, read through the example problems a little bit more in detail, and really find the key points of maybe terms and formulas I know from previous chapters that I'm already comfortable with, and see how they're going to relate into the next chapter. After we read through all of that, we're going to go back and take notes. So we're going to reread the chapter, but this time going even slower and taking notes along the way and relating it to information that we already know. We're slowly building that foundation. Now, this may seem slower at first because you're taking the time to read the chapter 3, maybe 4 or 5 times. But if you just go ahead, read the chapter and try the problems and brute force it, it's going to take you a lot longer in the long run, and you're not going to have as much of an understanding of the subject. So again, we're slowly adding to the foundation and really trying to grasp the material. Especially with things in the STEM field, they have a tendency to build on one another. So if you have a weak foundation, you're only making it harder for yourself in the long run with the future classes you're going to take. So now that we've skimmed the chapter, read the chapter without taking notes, and taken notes while rereading the chapter, we're going to try to write these notes in our own words so that it's more relatable to us. We're also going to pick apart parts that we don't understand and try to find other materials that can better explain that topic, and then write notes on it and then rewrite in our own words. We're basically applying the Feynman technique as we go along. By rewriting these notes in your own words, you're strengthening the connections in your brain into how it's all related. And that, again, is going to make a stronger foundation. So now that we've written the notes in our own words, we're going to try some of the example problems. If we're doing math, this is very applicable. You're going to go to the problems at the end of the chapter and start to work through them. So again, this is going to seem slow, but it's much faster at the end of the day. So the last thing I want to talk about is being consistent with your studying. Instead of just studying all in one day, right before the test, cramming it in, and then attempting to remember all the formulas you need for that test, we're going to be consistent about it. We're going to break it up into small sections and do it every single day. Now, what I like to do after having taken my notes on the chapter and rewritten them is the next day, I try to practice a little bit of active recall and do some problems without looking at my notes. I see how far I can get until I just can't remember it, then I pull my notes out and go through the problems. The next day, I do it again and see if I can complete an entire problem without using my notes at all, or at least relying on them less. And I do this again and again and again until I don't need my notes at all and it makes sense to me. I understand the topic conceptually so that the problems are just problems and I can apply my knowledge to whatever different format the formula can come in. So at the end of the day, don't think that you aren't smart enough for difficult subjects, because that often just isn't the case. Now, maybe you jumped a little too far ahead and you went into a class that you really just need to go back a few classes and get that base understanding, and that's fine. But it's not because you aren't smart enough to understand the material. You just need to figure out how you can study that material more efficiently and break it down and build that foundation so you can keep moving forward with your studies. So have a great rest of your day. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below on a video topic that you might want me to cover.